Guys, and we back. It's been a while. I do apologize about that. After the past couple of episodes, um, having Carl and Bossy on, things have just got absolutely crazy since then. We've signed so many wonderful deals since that podcast. Those podcasts have been launched, and it's been an absolutely epic ride. I've got so much to share with you guys that has happened in a very, very short space of time. Um, but yes, of course, we've come back onto the podcast to discuss a topic. I love doing these solo podcasts because I actually get to voice my opinion about certain criterias within the industry and voice them out and actually see where they go from there and have different discussions on social media or whatever it may be. However, this week's topic's a little bit of an interesting one. But before we get into that, I have got some extremely exciting news, and I thought, well, let me just share it with you guys. First things first, tomorrow, the 25th, which is tomorrow, Sunday, I launched my very first episode of the podcast on Carbon TV. It's been a crazy process to get to this point, and crazy in a good way because I've experienced so many wonderful things along the way. And Carbon TV at the moment are currently having their awards ceremonies, and guys get to vote for their favorite shows, and all that sort of stuff. So being a part of the process so far has been a little bit daunting, to say the least. A very small town boy out of South Africa. This is kind of like a it's quite a shock to the system, I must admit. But it's been fun. It's been fun being involved in the process, having a lot of conversations back and forth with the people at Carbon TV. Um, it's been a wild ride. I haven't quite got the grips of it yet, and I'm very, very excited to transfer all my hunting experiences across to the Carbon TV platform, which will be happening in the next couple of weeks. With that being said, there's more exciting news that's come up in the past couple of weeks. I've been invited to attend a Saka deer hunt. Yes, a Saka deer. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I've never seen one. To be, in fact, we had Rusa and sandbar deer. That's probably the closest resemblance I've seen to a Saka deer. So we'll be heading down to Cambridge in Maryland in October to hunt a Saka deer, which I'm extremely excited about. I'll be joining the guys from Magnum Archery this week to go and get stuff dialed in and ready for action. I'm really, really looking forward to this one because it's a whole new experience. Yes, I'm only going for a very short period of time, but and this is what my whole idea about experiencing hunting through conservation has been. And I've been very, very fortunate to be invited on this hunt, and big shout out to my good friend Pat Dugan. Without him, a lot of this wouldn't be possible, and I'm forever, ever grateful for this incredible opportunity. Once again, guys, this is the old issue. The new one I left at the office in town. So if you guys haven't yet, my latest story is out in the Volta and Yak. So if you are listening to this and you're South African, head along there. Unri hunted in Nyala. This month's episode is all about women hunting, which I'm very, very excited about. So head along, have a look at that one, read it up, and tell me what you think. But yeah, that's pretty much all the excitement that we've had. Once again, guys, I say this every podcast, and I'm immensely grateful for how far we've come, and I can't thank anyone more so than everyone watching this and supporting it, interacting with the posts, because those small little interactions, the liking, the sharing, the subscribing, goes a very, very long way to helping me achieve what I want to achieve, and put back into conservation as much as I possibly can. So from my side, I know I say it and I'll become a little bit of a stuffed record, but my gratitude towards everyone that has supported me, there's no words that will ever describe how grateful I am for supporting me along this journey. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, let's get into this week's episode. So, a very let me put it this way. It's a controversial topic. So, let me paint everyone a picture before we get going here. There's been a couple of messages online. One in particular, a gentleman's coming out on his very first safari. Sorry, I'm just making sure that this thing has been making connection issues. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he's coming out in his very first safari to South Africa, and he's been in contact with an agent. Now, I'm pretty sure somewhere along the line in my very early stages of podcasting, I did an episode about agents, right? Since that episode aired, I've never really felt comfortable enough to be able to speak about agents on the podcast because, number one, I've had extremely bad experiences with agents. And number two, unfortunately, I come from a position that I don't think they have in the industry. I don't think they have a significant role to play within the industry. And I'll get to my reasoning a little bit later on. But I've broken this podcast down into 3 sections. Of course, I'm going to break it down into the perks of a client, perks of an outfitter, and then my opinion as a whole on whether utilizing agents is a worthwhile experience. So please, guys, understand that this is my personal opinion on the whole debacle. I will put this on record to say that I've interviewed 3 agents in a space of about 4 years. A year prior to COVID, the first year after COVID, and then we did one probably about 2 months ago. And there's a reason why I haven't aired them. And my personal opinion is that on all 3 or 4 episodes that we've done, every single one of them sounds like a used car salesman. And I mean this with the utmost respect. They are not bad individuals. They are not bad gentlemen. I get on with them thoroughly. Some of them are incredible hunters. But the agency scheme around hunting for me just doesn't sit well. So when I look at it from an outfitter's perspective, of course there's perks, there's huge benefits. You've got agents that are bringing you a completely different clientele base. Now, when we look at it from an outfitter's perspective, there's a couple of deals that go on that not a lot of us are aware of. Some agents will discuss having commission-based deals where they'll be paid out in cash through bank transfers or whatever it may be. Some agents prefer to have it as a credit on their account so they can get to come out and hunt for free and bring their family and friends along, and they get to live off the credit. And then the clients, the agencies bring these. I wouldn't call them agencies. The only ever experience I've had is not an agency. It's just an agent. It's a single individual that walks around and tries to sell hunts for you. As far as an agent's concerned, yes, there are perks to it. You're getting listed across the board as you're having a completely different clientele that you probably would have targeted at the shows that you wouldn't have had access to. There are so many different ranges. The agent could be based in a completely different area. He's affiliated with those sort of chapters when it comes to Dallas Safari Club, SCR, those sort of things. So there's huge perks as an outfitter. What happens is, though, in this, let's discuss it a little bit later. Again, I'm trying not to be as I'm trying not to have my negative experiences reflect on why this could be a positive solution to a lot of young outfitters that are coming through the ranks, or that are starting out, or that have got a piece of land and they would like to get going, because there are some great perks to having an agent being able to be that side for you and market for you. Because let's face facts, in today's world right now as we speak, look, it is getting better, but the current exchange rate is intense. It's so intense at the moment. It's so expensive for us to go over there, market these shows, and market them successfully, because if you don't have people coming out to hunt on your properties or hunt with your company, you can forget about generating a clientele for the future. Because I've been in this industry long enough to understand that still one of the best marketing tools you have is word of mouth. So how that happens is you've got to get people over here. So where do you start? And of course, a lot of people start with agents, right? So yeah, there's your perks and benefits as far as outfitters are concerned. And I think that's probably about it, because yeah, again, we'll get into that a little bit later when it comes to negative side of things. From a client's perspective, what happens? Well, right, the South African, the Southern African hunting industry reputation, I feel at this point, is kind of like a shaky 50-50 for a lot of new clients. I've just had people come in now for 5 days, and their first opinion on South Africa before they even landed here was like, this is shady, right? There's a lot of things from an outfitter's perspective that I could have done better to make their experience that side feel a little bit more relaxed than coming over. But if I never had anyone over there as references or anything like that for them to phone and confirm these sort of things, it might have not worked out as well as what it did. But with that being said, for clients that side, it's a very daunting thing, especially first timers, to come out and land in the dark continent, a country that was red listed in COVID, that has the highest percentage of crime, and these are facts, because if you go on and just Google South Africa, a lot of the negative stuff comes up very, very well right at the top of the page, right? So these are things that people are probably anticipating on the other side and saying, well, hey, hang on, yeah, is this probably the wisest idea? However, doing it through an agent, you kind of, he's your reference, right? He's your reference to go to and say, well, listen, whoever you may be, you know, what should we take? Yeah, what should we do? Yeah. You say this is safe, right? Or is our money secure if we do it this way? How much can we go to for tips and all that sort of stuff? So from a client's perspective, having an agent involved does give you a sense of security that side. Because when you're coming out to South Africa for the very, very first time, you're spending a lot of money. You are. It's unfortunately just the nature of the beast. And for a lot of people, it's money that you can't afford to lose because you want to pay and have it as part of the experience. And rightfully so, right? But with that being said, and this is where the discussion gets interesting for me, right? When I look at our industry as a whole, I kind of have to wonder, with the influence of social media, how much social media gets put out there that is accurate, that is correct. I literally watched a podcast yesterday, and unfortunately, I was associated with the individuals that did the podcast, and I've done a YouTube episode with them, and for me, it was absolutely appalling to watch that, because the disconnect, they're a prominent figure in our hunting industry, but the disconnect that they have right now from when they started is intense. It's immense. It's actually extremely sad to see, because individuals that had conservation at the forefront of their establishment now are sitting back on their laurels. They run volumes through their setup, and they've got such a terrible disconnect on the happenings within our industry. And it's sad to see. I mean, some of the questions that were asked about Bontebok permits and all that sort of stuff, and their answers were completely vague and wishy-washy, and it was it was very very sad to see. Um, but yeah, with that being said, we're not going to get too much into that. At the end of the day, the point is that agencies don't have an invested interest in the industry other than wanting to generate funds for themselves, commission, and all that sort of stuff. There have been guys that I've hunted with, and I am going to mention names. Jared Habel from AfricanHunting.com. What an incredible establishment. They've gone out there to really they've grabbed the best of the best outfitters. They've set themselves aside. They focus on conservation. They've really done an incredible job of putting themselves out there. Jared, I've hunted with Jared a number of times, and I might be a little bit biased because I really enjoy Jared's company. But the thing is, he takes us forward, and it resonates within the company that him and Derek have started. And Jared, I hope you don't mind if you ever listen to this. I hope you don't mind me mentioning your company, because I am immensely proud of how far they have come within the industry. What started off as what could have been a cringy agency has now transferred into individuals that look after our wildlife and have played such a crucial part in our conservation, and have been a part of it every step of the way, because they've come over, they hunt. And that is a perfect example of where agents or I like to call them pioneers of our industry, or gentlemen that will take our industry going forward from that side, which is always encouraging to see. There are a number of them out there. However, the majority of them that I've had have impacted our industry, not negatively, but haven't given the correct ideology behind it, right? So a lot of agents that come out don't have the invested interest. They don't care how 50 sable or 100 buffalo get taken off a property in a season. They don't care. They don't have the back knowledge of it. They don't understand that people are dropping off animals on the one end of the camp, and then the hunters are waiting on the other end, and they're coming through and they're getting shot. They don't care as long as they're generating their commission and their volume of animals. Because for some weird reason, an agent always believes his pitch to an outfitter has got to be, oh, don't worry, this guy's going to bring you X amount of clients and he's going to shoot 50 animals in a safari. That's not the idea. That's not the point. And if you've listened to my previous conversations on these podcasts, is that we are prostituting our commodity out there. And what these agents don't understand is the value of that commodity that has on our industry. And that's the important part, right? And I've slowly realized that by just having these discussions. I was also blind to the fact, I mean, now I've completely changed the perspective on my outfitting company. I'm going to completely get rid of packages, because it makes perfect sense. You want to savor the commodity so that we can manipulate, or not manipulate, but we can have more control over what happens to it, right? And that's the important factor around this whole thing. And again, I'm probably extremely biased when it comes to this topic, but I felt like I needed to say something, because on my social media, I mean, there was a gentleman that's coming out for the first time. He is doing everything through the agent, and he's been asking me, is this the right way of doing things? And I think there are so many good people out there that have been to Africa. I mean, you look at the likes of Mackenzie Sims, Sean Kogut, just to name a few of the individuals that have really, they're putting this information out there for no cost whatsoever, for no rebate or commission whatsoever. They're just trying to make sure that the people on the other side have got comfort when coming over here. to have the best possible experience they possibly can. And these are individuals that have been to South Africa, that have been to Africa on a number of occasions. And whatever they are saying is 100% correct. And they wouldn't be putting it out there because, unfortunately, somewhere along the line, they've had bad experiences. They've done the wrong things. And they're just trying to make sure that you guys don't do the same sort of thing. I can only give it from a South African point of view, from an African point of view, but they've lived it, they've done it, they've traveled with so many different airlines and all that sort of stuff. So the agent is always going to put you wherever they get the best deal, and that is the next negative thing, is that agents will actually prostitute clients to different outfitters to try and get the best deal for their client and the cheapest deal at the highest commission, right? So there was an incident, at the start of the year. I had an agent come up to me, and he's been following me on social media for some time now. And we were just chatting, and I've never done business with him before. I've never met him. The first time I met him was in the States now on this last trip. And the first sales pitch was, he's going to bring me a client that will be taking off 27 to 30 animals a single safari. And I kind of said to him, I said, look, hang on, I'm not all about that. I can't deliver on stuff like that. Number one, the reason why I can't is because I don't have the land facilities to do so. And number two, I just feel that it's unethical to do that. I can't have 5 or 6 clients a year that are doing that purely based on the land issue, right? And I also just kind of feel that I don't want it to take away from the experience. I value experience over quantity, which is very, very important. And the more we got on, it got to a point where I was like, you know what? Let's try this thing. I don't have a good feeling about it, but I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit. Yeah, that was corny. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I said to him, I said, okay, look, so what are the commission rates? And he said to me, he said, look, he works on between 20 and 30% commission. If it's 30%, he's happy to take 10% as a credit on his safari when he comes out and hunts. And I kind of did the maths, and I was like, yeah, this is doable. I'm not going to make any money, but it does bring a couple of clients into the framework. And like I said earlier in this podcast, I said I still believe that one of the best marketing tools that we have is word of mouth, right? So I was like, okay, you know what? Deal. Let's do it. Literally about 3.5 hours into the SCR show, he meets me at the one pub, and he says to me, he says, look, this is a client that I'll be bringing to you in 2024. However, we've discussed full commissions with another outfitter at 35%, and my client's going to be getting a buffalo at, I think it was like $5,500. And I was like, I punched in the numbers, and I was like, yeah, you know what, this is almost impossible. I mean, if you want to bankrupt a young and new company, this is the way to do it, you know. And I was like, I can't meet those demands. So it's like, how about $6,000 for the buffalo, and then we leave it at 30% for the commission. I was like, that doesn't make any mathematical sense for me. But this is what happened, and the back and forth was constantly on. He's like, okay, don't worry, we'll let this one pass, but I'll get you another guy. And he comes to me, and eventually, like after the 4th time, I was like, I can't do this back and forth anymore. I kind of feel like there's somebody that's going to be losing out. It's either me or it's either the client. I said, somewhere along the line, you are doing all of this work to benefit yourself and not the other two parties. And I said to him there and then, I said, unfortunately, I can't carry on with this. And that's what I feel like. I feel like even on the conversations, the podcast, I've had podcasts with guys that I've known for a very, very long time. I've had the privilege to know them. I've never hunted with them, and I've never been involved with business, but I've understood their doings. And the conversation was just, they were promoting their business on any given, there was no discussion about conservation because they didn't have the slightest idea. The only one conversation piece that we had that was pretty decent was about the giraffe. They were saying, oh no, that don't think that giraffe should go on CITES and all this sort of stuff, and which, I mean, we already know, and this side, we're already fighting for all of that sort of stuff. So I honestly feel that when you are having somebody that is disconnected in the industry trying to sell something within the industry, the intentions are never going to be good. They're never going to be the right intentions for what gets delivered. And that's the sad part about it. The next thing is that for outfitters is that, where do you draw the line if those clients carry on returning to you? So do you keep paying him commission for every time those clients return? Because at the end of the day, he did the initial work by getting them there. But year 3, 4, 5, and 6, they've always booked directly through you. So where are we drawing the line when it comes to these agents? Are they just going to sit and have a passive income for the rest of their life? I bring one client to you, I'm getting 10 to 20% commission. If he books for the next 10 years, I've got 10 years of passive income, and I don't have to lift a finger. I don't have to worry about conservation. I don't have to worry about how they get to and from anymore. I don't have to worry about the service that gets delivered from the outfitter. As long as they've booked, my job here is done. And that's the impression I give. I have seen agents that will follow their clients every step of the way, make sure that they've landed there safely, make sure that they leave safely, make sure they're in every discussion when it comes to their trophies. There are those agents out there, but they're very few and far between. Unfortunately, like a lot of individuals believe I can help them when it comes to a good agent, I can't. I don't know anyone. Like I said, the only guys that I've really had a very, very positive and a good feel about are the guys from AfricanHunting.com. Jared and Derek have done an exceptional job from that side of things, and there are many other guys out there. But like I mentioned, Sean Kogut, Mackenzie Sims, go and watch those guys on social media. Those guys know exactly what they're talking about. They've been there. They've been through all of this sort of stuff, and they've lived it, and they understand where the industry is going. They understand conservation. They're talking about it on their podcasts, on their Instagram stories. It's a constant discussion that they're having with themselves, with clients, with friends and family that they've had out there. So these are the sort of things that we have to. And It brings me back to the question, is there any credit to having all this information plugged out there on social media? Because this podcast, how does it have the credibility to make sure that the people coming out for the very first time, guys that have hunted with me, I'm sure they would understand that this is a reputable source of information. But guys that haven't, how will they ever judge this podcast and say, well, this seems legit, like Dylan knows a little bit what he's talking about, this is how we should trust him and go forward. Let's go and have a look at his YouTube stuff. So are we losing that disconnect through social media? Have we lost it through agencies, or have we lost it in the industry as a whole? And these are tough questions we need to start asking ourselves, and also try and understand how many individuals, whether it be an agent, outfitter, PH, or client, are out there for the correct reasons, that are communicating their voice across in the correct manner. And that's an important part, that's, as long as people are doing it for the correct, I mean, still to this day, we've got over 2 million downloads. We're in the top 20 hunting podcasts in the world. We're number one. We've been number one in Africa now for the last 4 or 5 years. There's no income that comes to this podcast. There's nothing that's incentivizing me to do this other than pure passion, pure understanding, and wanting the best conservation practices for our industry. And I hope that says a lot, and I hope that says enough for people out there to trust it, trust the platform, and take it forward. So, yeah, I think although this topic was a little bit biased, and I said it right from the start, guys, I haven't had good experiences with clients, and I'm not gonna sit on my podcast, my very own podcast, and lie about an industry, well, a part of the industry that I feel is a little bit scaly. I don't think there's too many honest agents out there. There are some good ones, but there's not too many honest ones out there. But yeah, guys, once again, a nice, beautiful little impact, short, straight to the point podcast. I felt like it was needed to be said. Agencies are just, we're crawling up. It's the North American hunting season now, and we're kind of slowly crawling up to show season, and start kicking things off in November, December, and then January it's full steam ahead. And we've got to have the right mindset, the right perspective in going into next year's show season for us to turn 2025 around, and I think we can do that. So I'm hoping this little podcast eggs on a lot of guys that were considering agencies to actually just try and sit back, take a breath, and reconsider. So like I said, and I've said this so many times before, my social media, my emails, my website, everything is open for discussion, and I don't ask a single cent. So if you guys want any information or any input, you guys know where to find me, and I will gladly do it there for you. But yeah, guys, so exciting week ahead. I've got 2 podcast episodes this week scheduled, and I am pumped. I've got Adrian Donian from Buffalo Cliff Safari. This is one for the books. I'm so excited about this one because Buffalo Cliff, those of you that don't know, is probably going to go down in South African hunting history as probably one of the most successful conservation programs that we've had to date, and I'm really looking forward to this one. And then I've got a very exciting new perspective on hunting, and that's also to tie kind of in with my men's mental health side of things with Dr. Stephen Bass. I'm really looking forward to that one. So this week we've got 2 scheduled, releasing 1 a week. So I'm really looking forward to this. Hopefully we can get a number more in before we leave in October to hunt the elusive saka deer. I'm looking forward to that one. So guys, once again, thank you so much for tuning into this week's podcast. It means the world to me. You guys know this. So yeah, and if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and if you enjoyed this episode, interact with it or drop a thumbs up. You know it goes a long way. But for myself, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, and stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.